Hey there, welcome to Holistic Mojo. I am Sahara Lee, and I have been asked to speak on the topic of raw dairy and the difference between the raw dairy and pasteurized dairy industries, as well as the difference between the two forms of milk. So, I worked for a raw dairy farm in New York. It was very small. It was family owned, so husband and wife, and then their two kids. And then I came in and worked with them as well. And we had about 10 to 15 different cows, and they were all named, and they came when they were called to be milked. So that's kind of the first difference between the two industries. Raw dairy is typically small batch, family owned, and the mass-produced pasteurized dairy is large scale, probably also family owned, but that family might be owned by a corporation, or corporation might be the umbrella that multiple farms are held under. So the difference between 10 to 15 cows and 10 to 1,500 or 10,000 to 15,000 is a pretty big difference. So that's one of the big differences. Next would be the regulations. So raw dairy is highly regulated. So people have these fears about having raw dairy and we might get sick and yada, yada, yada. Like that's really hard to happen because it's so highly regulated. So we call the cow, it would wander up into the milking stall, and it would stick its face in its breakfast and let us get to town. So depending on how dirty the cow was, we would wash the cow down, either a full head to toe rinse or just a kind of an undercarriage and legs rinse. And then we would hand wash the udders with a specific solution that was there to kill off anything, any foreign substance, any bacteria, any infection, any of that. During that process, if the cow was in any way sick or uncomfortable, it would let you know. And at that point, that cow's milk would not go into the vat of milk. So after we clean them, we would strip the milk out of the teats. So we do that by hand, just grabbing hold, pulling down, milking the cow essentially the old-fashioned way, by hand. You do that for a couple squirts and you check the milk. So if the cow didn't pay any attention to you, it means it's not in any pain. If it did pay attention to you, then it's in pain, and that cow's milk is going to get dumped that day. You check the milk that's on the floor. Is it the correct color? Does it have the right consistency? Is it chunky? So any signs of infection, and again, that cow's milk is going to be dumped. So the cow is completely sterilized before we put the milking machine on. The milking machines go up onto the teats and it gets to milking. So that milk goes through a hose and into, I don't know if it was a 5 or 10 gallon jug, but before it does that, it goes through a filter. So the milk is then checked again to make sure that there's no foreign substances, that there's no sign of infection, there's no blood, there's no pus, there's no discoloration, no chunks. If any of that stuff is found, then again, that cow's milk is dumped. It is not put into the vat. So we've got 10 to 15 cows get milked, get sterilized before they get milked. The milk gets checked two times before it goes into the vat. And it's a small vat. We're talking 10 to 15 cows. Now, on large scale pasteurization situation, those cows are sometimes not even allowed out in the field. They are just in their stalls all the time. Milking machine goes on. They're not cleaned. They're not disinfected. They're not checked for illness. That milk gets pulled all directly into a vat, and it is not checked before it goes in the vat. So you have no idea if that cow is bleeding, if it has an infection, if it's pussing into the milk, you have no idea. And it is not regulated because it's going to be boiled. It's going to be pasteurized. So along with that blood and that pus that can possibly be put into the main vat, there's feces that are on the udders oftentimes, dirt. And then if, say, a mouse, which is very common, or a cat or a rat or a bunny, any of those small animals happens to fall into the vat, it just gets boiled along with the milk. It's literally written about how much dead animal is allowed into that milk because it's going to be pasteurized. So it's going to be boiled. So it's just essentially milk infused with dead animal feces, blood, pus, and dirt. So all of that milk is then taken from that farm and moved. So we've got like 1,000, 10,000 cows. All that milk is put together and then put into like a larger umbrella situation where you might have hundreds of dairy farms coming together, and all that milk gets put into one situation or one vat. So if something's wrong with that milk, contamination of any sort, how do you find the cow? You can't find the farm, therefore you can't find the cow. But if there's something that's gone wrong with raw milk or raw cheese, it's really easy to follow that back to the farm and possibly even the cow. So huge differences in the way cows are treated, in the way they are cleaned, in the way they are milked, in the way your milk is treated. Another thing is, in my 10 plus years of practicing Ayurveda natural medicine, I have yet to come across a lactose intolerant client who could not drink raw milk, eat raw milk ice cream, eat raw cheese. It's something about that process of pasteurization that kills off those enzymes, that kills off those full, vibrant fats, that just makes it really difficult for the body to digest. So your body reacts very differently to raw dairy than it does to pasteurized dairy. Pasteurized dairy is going to be harder to digest. It's going to be more mucus forming. It's going to increase inflammation. And dairy in general increases inflammation, whether it's pasteurized or not, but it is more inflammatory when it's been pasteurized. So those are the big differences between raw dairy and pasteurized dairy. If you happen to be one of those people that has done raw dairy and still has a lactose reaction to it, please let us know. Like I said, I've never come across it, and I could absolutely be wrong, but 10 plus years practicing and never seen it. How about some fun facts about cows to finish this off? Because cows are one of my favorite animals. Cows are assholes, and they're very political. So they will huddle together and plot against you as a human, against each other. So they can be very like high school cliquey. Definitely, they'll ostracize one cow, and if that cow doesn't stand up for themselves, they are definite jerks to that cow. And like I said, they will huddle up, and we had brewer's yeast, like a big bucket of brewer's yeast that we had like a thing over the top, so that it could that top could just be removed, and then you could pull the brewer's yeast out, because they loved this stuff and it's what they got in their breakfast. And we'd let them out, and there'd be like three of us, like we'd need to clean the barn, so let all the cows out, they're out playing, and a couple of us would have to guard the brewer's yeast, and they would huddle together, and that's when you knew it was on, because they get in that huddle and they're like, all right guys, we're gonna go in all these different directions, and some of us are gonna make it to that brewer's yeast, and some of us are gonna, they can't get all of us, was essentially their point. And yeah, they'd huddle up, and then they'd break, and they would run all over the place. Some of them would run towards us, towards the brewery. Some would run towards the driveway. Some would run up into the forest, and they knew that we really didn't want them to go up in the forest because they're impossible to dig out of the forest. So yeah, it'd be like we'd have to figure it out as humans. Like somebody's got to stay with the yeast and somebody's got to chase these freaking cows. Yeah, so there's definitely a hierarchy. They're political, they're dramatic. Oh my God, they're so dramatic. And they are total smart assholes. So yeah, those are my fun facts on cows. That's some information on raw dairy and pasteurized dairy. If you've got any questions, feel free to reach out to me via email. Check out my website, holisticmojo.com, to see more of the services that I offer. And yeah, feel free to comment below. Please be kind. I know not everybody's super into the dairy industry, and I totally understand why. And I don't believe that dairy is for everybody. It's just for some people. And as a little caveat, it was a vegan that asked me to do this video. So yeah, I just ask you to be open-minded and recognize that everybody has choice in what they decide to put in their body. So just honoring that. Cool. Enjoy your day.